They won't admit it publicly, but one game quietly exposed everything wrong with the Cleveland Browns. Not just the roster, not just the coaching staff, the entire power structure. Because what happened wasn't just a bad performance, it was a historic failure that forced panic, finger-pointing, and damage control behind closed doors. And at the center of it all is a rookie quarterback who took the hit for everyone else's mistakes. It started with a number so bad it almost sounded fake, 48%. That's how often the quarterback was pressured in a single game against Chicago. Nearly half his dropbacks. Not one of the worst this season. Not among the league's worst. The worst pressure rate ever recorded since modern NFL tracking began, since 2009. 15 years of data, and Cleveland just set a record nobody wants their name attached to. Analysts caught it immediately. Fans felt it instantly. And inside that building, alarm bells were already ringing. Because pressure like that doesn't just ruin a game. It ruins development. It messes with confidence. It shortens careers. And when it happens to a rookie, everyone knows you're supposed to protect. It stops being about football and starts becoming a question of competence. But instead of confronting that reality head-on, the Browns did what dysfunctional organizations do best. They redirected the conversation. After the game, the quarterback stepped into the press conference looking calm, professional, and almost unnervingly composed for someone who'd just spent 60 minutes running for his life. He didn't complain. He didn't point fingers. He didn't even hint at frustration. Reporters immediately zeroed in on his completion percentage, comparing it to his college numbers, framing the night like some kind of personal regression. And instead of pushing back, he owned everything. He talked about adjusting to NFL speed, about learning, about getting better week by week. It was leadership, the kind teams beg young quarterbacks to show. But then something strange happened. The very next day, when a coach finally faced the media, the tone flipped completely. Suddenly the story wasn't about growth or accountability. It was about excuses. Late play calls? Blame the weather? Confusion at the line? Apparently the headset struggled because it was cold. Let that sink in. An NFL game in 2024 played in conditions the league has thrived in for decades, and the explanation is that technology couldn't handle it. This is the same league that plays playoff games in blizzards, that installs heating systems under fields, that breaks down every inch of turf in 4K resolution. But somehow, communication equipment was the problem. And then came the line that told you everything you needed to know. We just need to be better as a collective group. There's not one person at fault. No individual accountability, no acknowledgement of schematic failure. Just a vague, foggy statement that spreads responsibility so thin it disappears entirely. Which would be fine if that standard applied consistently. Because here's the double standard nobody wanted to say out loud. When the offense collapses structurally, nobody's to blame. When protection breaks down, when assignments are missed, when execution looks amateur, it's a group issue. But when the box score looks ugly, when completion percentage dips, when the numbers don't shine, suddenly the spotlight narrows to one person, the rookie quarterback. That's not subtle. That's organizational instinct. Protect the system. Protect the veterans. Protect the staff. Let the young guy absorb the heat. And while all of this was happening publicly, something much louder was unfolding privately. Panic. Because ownership saw the same numbers everyone else did. They saw a historic pressure rate. They saw national analysts raising red flags. They saw fans turning restless. And suddenly, the Browns started making moves that didn't look planned. They looked rushed. Offensive linemen were cut. Emergency signings were announced. Depth pieces were shuffled in and out like someone was hitting a reset button mid-season. Fans were confused, angry, calling the moves baffling, but this wasn't random roster management. This was damage control. When you add players, you have to cut others, and Cleveland wasn't tweaking, they were scrambling. This wasn't the front office executing a vision. This was ownership forcing action because the situation had crossed into dangerous territory. Because deep down, they know the truth. They sent a rookie quarterback onto an NFL field behind one of the most unstable protection units ever assembled. And now they're trying to stop the bleeding before it permanently alters his trajectory. Look at who was actually blocking in that Bears game, not who was supposed to be there, who actually took the snaps. A late-season acquisition at left tackle still learning the system, a respected veteran at guard doing. Cleveland wants to admit it, but the warning signs were there long before the scoreboard told the story. The Browns didn't just lose a game. They crossed a line that teams rarely recover from without lasting damage. And the moment it happened, the organization went into full panic mode. Not reflection, not accountability, panic. Because what unfolded against Chicago wasn't just ugly football. It was historic, in the worst possible way. And it exposed how quickly this franchise is willing to shift blame when things fall apart. It started with a number so bad it almost sounds fake, a 48% pressure rate. Nearly half of every dropback, the quarterback was running for his life, not scrambling by choice, not extending plays, surviving. Since modern NFL tracking began in 2009, no quarterback, rookie or veteran, has ever endured pressure like that in a single game. Let that sink in. This wasn't a rough outing. This was a record that should never exist. And the most alarming part wasn't the defense across the field. It was the silence from the people responsible for putting that offensive line together. Fans saw it immediately. Analysts didn't need slow-motion replays. Every snap told the same story. Blown assignments, late help, linemen beaten clean before routes even developed. This wasn't about a young quarterback holding the ball too long. There was nowhere to go. The pocket collapsed before progressing.